Pull up, pull up, pull up. 10 seconds. That's all the warning they had. 10 seconds to save 254 lives. The ground proximity warning system screamed into the cockpit. The alarm was designed to be impossible to ignore. It was working perfectly. But in those final 10 seconds, the crew did nothing. This is the story of Korean Air Flight 801, a disaster caused not by mechanical failure, but by exhaustion, hierarchy, and a culture where junior officers were afraid to challenge their captain. This is the story of how 228 people died because warnings were heard but not acted upon. August 6, 1997. Korean Air Flight 801 departs Seoul, South Korea, bound for Guam. It's a routine overnight flight carrying 254 passengers and crew. The Boeing 747 is less than 2 years old. The weather forecast shows rain and reduced visibility at Guam's Antonio B. Won Pat International Airport, but nothing unusual for the tropical island. In the cockpit sits Captain Park Young-chul, a highly experienced pilot with over 13,000 flight hours. But he's also exhausted. He's been awake for over 20 hours. The first officer and flight engineer are equally fatigued. They've been flying back-to-back routes with minimal rest. This is their third flight in 24 hours. As Flight 801 approaches Guam after nearly 4 hours in the air, the crew is cleared for a visual approach to runway 6 left. The airport's instrument landing system, the ILS, which provides precise electronic guidance to the runway, is out of service for maintenance. The crew will have to navigate using the older, less precise VOR approach. The captain has flown into Guam many times. He's confident, but fatigue is clouding his judgment. At 1:42 a.m. local time, Flight 801 descends through the darkness toward Guam. Rain is falling. Visibility is less than 3 miles. The island's mountainous terrain rises sharply from the ocean, making a stable approach critical. The crew is supposed to descend to a minimum altitude, confirm visual contact with the runway, then continue the landing. If they don't see the runway, they must execute a missed approach and go around. But something is already going wrong. The captain has misidentified a navigation beacon. He thinks the aircraft is further from the airport than it actually is. The flight engineer notices the error, but says nothing. In Korean Air's hierarchical cockpit culture, junior crew members rarely questioned the captain's decisions. Speaking up could mean career consequences. The first officer sees the altimeter dropping below safe limits. He hesitates. He makes a vague comment about the altitude, but doesn't directly challenge the captain. The captain doesn't respond. The Boeing 747 continues descending, now dangerously low, flying blind through rain and darkness toward Nimitz Hill, a 700-foot ridge 3 miles short of the runway. Then, at 1:42 and 19 seconds, the ground proximity warning system activates. A computerized voice fills the cockpit. Sink rate, sink rate. The aircraft is descending too fast. 2 seconds later, another warning. Whoop, whoop. Pull up, pull up. The alarm is deafening. It's designed to trigger immediate action. But the captain hesitates. He's disoriented, fatigued. He thinks they're on the correct flight path. The first officer reaches for the throttles, but pulls back, deferring to the captain. Precious seconds pass. At 1:42 and 26 seconds, the final warning screams, terrain, terrain, pull up, pull up. The enhanced ground proximity warning system detects imminent collision with the ground. Now the crew has less than 4 seconds. Finally, the captain reacts. He pushes the throttles forward. He begins to pull back on the yoke, but it's too late. The Boeing 747, weighing over 300 tons, cannot climb fast enough. At 1:42:30, Flight 801 slams into the jungle-covered slope of Nimitz Hill at 180 miles per hour. The impact is catastrophic. The aircraft disintegrates on contact, fuel explodes, fire erupts across the hillside. The sound echoes through the valley. Within seconds, 228 people are dead. But this is not the end of the story. In the shattered wreckage, 26 passengers survived the initial impact. They escaped through broken sections of the fuselage, stumbling through fire and debris in the darkness. Their survival is a miracle, but it cannot undo the tragedy caused by 10 seconds of inaction. Investigators arrive at the crash site and begin the painstaking work of reconstructing what happened. They recover the black boxes, the flight data recorder, and cockpit voice recorder. What they find is chilling. The ground proximity warning system functioned perfectly. It detected the danger. It warned the crew repeatedly. From the first sink rate alert to impact, 11 seconds passed. The crew heard every warning, but they did not react in time. The investigation reveals a culture of fear in Korean Air's cockpits. Junior officers were trained not to question captains. Fatigue was systemic, with pilots regularly flying exhausted. The crew's situational awareness was compromised by poor communication and lack of cross-checking. The captain's misidentification of the navigation beacon went unchallenged, and when the warning sounded, the ingrained hierarchy prevented decisive action. The final report is damning. The NTSB concludes that Korean Air Flight 801 crashed due to the captain's failure to properly brief and execute the approach, the crew's failure to monitor and cross-check the approach, inadequate training, and a culture that discouraged assertiveness from junior crew members. Korean Air Flight 801 became a turning point. The airline was forced to confront its safety culture. Korean Air brought in foreign consultants, overhauled crew training, and implemented aggressive crew resource management programs. Pilots were retrained to communicate openly. Junior officers were taught to challenge decisions. Fatigue policies were reformed. Safety became the top priority, not hierarchy. The changes worked. Korean Air transformed from one of the world's most dangerous airlines to one of the safest. Today, it operates with an exemplary safety record. But that transformation cost 228 lives. The black box revealed something investigators already knew, but the world needed to hear. Technology can warn you, but it cannot save you if you ignore it. In aviation, 10 seconds is an eternity. 10 seconds to recognize the danger, 10 seconds to make a decision, 10 seconds to act. The crew of Flight 801 had those 10 seconds. They heard the warnings, but cultural pressures, fatigue, and hesitation turned those 10 seconds into a tragedy. Guam's Nimitz Hill now bears a memorial to the 228 victims of Flight 801. Their names are engraved on a stone monument overlooking the crash site. Families visit to remember loved ones lost in the darkness. The jungle has reclaimed the hillside, but the memory remains. Every pilot who flies today trains for that moment when the ground proximity warning system sounds. They learn to react instantly, without hesitation. Pull up, full power, climb. Because in aviation, 10 seconds is all you have. And 228 people died to teach the world that lesson. Flight 801 took off at 9:27 p.m. By 1:42 a.m., it was over. 4 hours of flight ended in 10 seconds of disaster. The warnings were there. The technology worked.
But the human element failed, and that failure changed aviation safety forever. Sometimes survival depends not on hearing the warning, but on having the courage to act on it immediately.